Hello, and thanks for joining me for this episode of Communication Connection. I'm your host, Victoria Bailey. Joining me for conversation today is a very special guest. She is the first Black female Chief Meteorologist at ABC 24 Memphis. She's Emmy nominated. She's an advocate for women in STEM. And of course, she is a Mississippi State University alum. Please join me in welcoming Miss Danielle Moss. Hey, Danielle.
Hello, Victoria. How are you doing?
I'm doing well this morning. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Yes, no problem. No problem. I love being able to sit down and talk to people about my story and my journey to maybe help inspire other people who might be thinking about taking the same path or just need a little bit of inspiration in general.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll jump right into it. Talk a little bit about what got you interested in meteorology and broadcast journalism in general.
Yes, so I have a very unconventional story. My first degree is in mass communication, and I got that from Jacksonville State University. And I decided that I wanted to do some type of reporting, and I wanted to be in broadcast journalism, and I really felt like that was my home. But like so many other people, I could not find a job right out of college, and so it was a struggle. I spent all of my senior year literally sending my tapes out, trying to find a job. We had our syndicaster, which held all of our projects for our capstone. It ended up literally catching on fire one day. And so we lost a lot of our work. And so the reel that I had just was not good enough. And I knew it wasn't good enough, but it was all that I had. And by the time that happened, it was too late to recreate some of those packages and things like that. So I had to really beg and plead, and it just wasn't working. And so I decided I was going to be a flight attendant. And that was kind of like a decision to just take a step back, enjoy life, travel, get out, and see what the world has to offer, and then maybe try to, regroup or go another direction, really. I'm not a dream ender, so I never wanted to give up on my dream, but I just didn't know where life was going to take me. When I became a flight attendant, I was a flight attendant for about 1.5 years when one of my roommates, she said, "You are obsessed with the weather." And I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You're always watching the Weather Channel. You're always looking at your radar. You're always doing something that is weather related. Like, you are literally obsessed." And I said, "Well, I didn't really realize how much weather impacted flying until I became a flight attendant, right? Because I was based in Detroit. I could be here in Detroit and we are flying to Savannah, and the weather in between is going to cause us a delay or even have us cancel." So I guess I am obsessed with the weather. I'm obsessed with trying to figure out what's going to happen and how is it going to impact me. And so she said, "Why don't you think about going back to school to try to be a meteorologist for like the airline?" And I was like, "You're right. I should. That's a good idea. I do really love the weather." And I found myself really getting into the science behind it all and not just, okay, what's the temperature going to be today? And so I did a little bit of research, and I found out that Mississippi State had an amazing meteorology program for both broadcast and operational meteorology. So that's where I thought that I was going to start going to school there and maybe try to do some aviation meteorology. But then they laid off 900 of us. They wanted to do some cutbacks, and they said that we had way too many flight attendants at the time. And so I was happy that I was in school already because that was going to be my fail-safe, but I wasn't quite done yet. So I started sending my things, literally just emails of help to different chiefs across the Southeast to kind of see if they had an internship or something that I could take so that I could try to get my foot into the door of meteorology somehow. I really just wanted to get a little bit more on-the-job training. And that's what I was hoping for. I didn't realize that I was going to end up loving broadcast meteorology as much as I do. And it's just kind of been a journey ever since. I definitely am not the normal meteorologist who fell in love with weather because of a crazy storm. But I definitely think that this is exactly where I should be with my life.
Yes, ma'am. And so talk a little bit about that. Obviously, you have a very extensive interest in meteorology and weather. What has been your most memorable coverage thus far?
My most memorable coverage, I would have to say, was just last year when we were covering the tornadoes on March 31st. We were on air for 8.5 hours, almost 9 hours that day, and it was overwhelming. When you're in that marathon, it's literally a marathon, you don't know when it's going to end. What happens is the National Weather Service will keep updating those tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings, and you have to stay on, and your commitment is to your people. That's another thing that kind of got me into meteorology was I knew that there's a lot of like a lack of knowledge about the weather and how people can be safe and what they need to do to keep their families safe as well. So for me, that's the most important part about my job. And I think that that day was kind of hard for us because we had major tornadoes that came through our viewing area. There was a large one that went through Wynne, Arkansas, one that went through Covington, Tennessee, and two that went through Bethel Springs and Selmer, Tennessee, and they literally went almost the exact same path. And there was loss of life that day. And I think that as a meteorologist, sometimes you have to take a step back and realize that, you are trying your very best, but some people just have a lack of resources. And you have to figure out how do you get to those people before that storm arrives? How do you make sure that people are prepared for severe weather, even when it's a nice, sunny, bright day, because you need to be prepared because at the last moment, you can't be trying to figure things out in that moment. You're going to be panicking. And so I think that that was my most memorable time, not only because I didn't even realize we were on air for 8 hours, but because of, the impacts beyond that and how we looked at how do we help these people? How do we make sure that they know that, bad weather happens, but you can make it through it, and you should make it through it. And we need to make sure that you have a safety plan in place.
And then talking about a safety plan, talk about the importance of not only just being aware that there's inclement weather on the way, but kind of like you said, taking steps and ensuring that your family has a plan of safety or a plan of action.
It's very important. And it's not just about severe weather too. It's what's our emergency plan, right? As a family, what should we do if something happens? You look at these really bad stories and things that, freak accidents, just like, this morning in Baltimore. What if our family's on that bridge? Or what if, someone's coming home from work and just unfortunately is on, what do we do? Where do we go? Where's our meeting point? You have to have these conversations with your family ahead of time. I take a lot of time and go to school visits, talk to young kids about severe weather safety. And part of that is kind of selfish because I know that they're going to go home and they're going to talk to their family about, well, what do we do if there's severe weather? What do we do if there's a bad thunderstorm? Where do we go if there's a tornado? Those are the type of conversations that you have to have. It's very imperative because, like I said, in that moment, when you're hearing the tornado sirens going off, you're hearing the wind against your window and it sounds like a freight train. You don't have time to think, okay, where are my important documents? Where are the things that I care about the most? Who has the birth certificates? Where's the passport? Who has the cell phone? You really have to just be ready to go and make sure that stuff is already in a safe place that, if God forbid your house is hit by a tornado, you're in the safest part of your home. And on top of that, your documents are in a safe keeping environment so that if your house is destroyed, a safe is not going to be destroyed with that. We also talk to elderly. I go to senior citizen homes. What do we do if you're in this, facility and there's severe weather? In December of 2021, we saw that happen in Monette, Arkansas, where there was a senior living facility that was hit by a tornado. So you have to be prepared no matter where you are. And that's even like going to work. Where are our emergency exits? How do I get out of this building if there's a fire? You have to think about these things, and sometimes you take that for granted because you don't want to live scared all the time, but you don't have to live scared if you're prepared for it.
Absolutely. And so talk a little bit about it. You just received a significant promotion, I want to say in November. Congratulations again on that. Obviously, you are stepping into being one of the pioneers in your field. Talk a little bit about that experience.
It's been overwhelming. Oh my goodness, so overwhelming. I knew, talking to my management, I knew that I was going to be the first Black female chief in Memphis. And then after talking to a few other chiefs in our state. It's really the state of Tennessee. So it really has been just completely overwhelming, the response that I have gotten from our community, for one. We have 4 different TV stations here in town, so you don't have to watch our channel, but to see people just so excited for me and they don't know me makes me feel absolutely wonderful because um, you have your family that's always, supporting you and cheering you on and in your corner, and you have your friends that are always, you go girl, but to hear it from people that are really strangers to you, that really means a lot. And I have been really blessed to be able to be in a city and be in, Memphis and the Mid-South and have people really gravitate towards me. And I know a lot of that has to do with all the severe weather coverage that we did have to do last year. It was a busy severe weather season. And I think that gained the trust of people a lot. And so while people are strangers to me, I'm not strangers to them. So, people are always rooting for you and always in your corner. And that feels great because not every person has that in every single market they're in. And I will say that Memphis has been absolutely great. And I really do love it here. And I can't even explain or put into words how it means to just have a moment to kind of be that person for Memphis and for Tennessee and for all the women in broadcast meteorology, right? Because there's not that many of us. On March 14th, on Pi Day, we wear purple to kind of raise awareness to the facts that there's just a lack of women in STEM in general, not just meteorology, but all kinds of facets of STEM. And we need women in STEM. We need to make sure that there's diversity. We need to make sure that we are there and we are some of the pioneers and some of the people that are really fighting for the things that we need. Because even though it's just science, there's a lot of science, and science controls a lot of things in this world, and technology and engineering and math. We need all of our beautiful brains to be working together to help make some good in this world.
Yes, ma'am. And so if you had advice to give a young meteorologist getting ready to enter into the industry, what would it be?
Don't give up. Do not give up on your dream, because a dream deferred is not a dream denied, right? I definitely thought that I had no idea, where am I going to go? I can't find a job out of college. If I had given up in that moment, then, I wouldn't be here right now. While I didn't start going to school for meteorology to be a broadcast meteorologist, life just takes you down its own path. And while I have the skills that I need to continue to learn and grow, where I'm at right now is absolutely beautiful when I look back at my journey and say, wow, you didn't think you'll be here, but look at you now. And that's a great feeling. And you only get that feeling when you don't give up on your dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. That is all the time we have. And thank you all so much for joining us for Communication Connection. We'll see you next time.